Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but we want to give a shout out to our podcast partners, Vital Signs Wall of Fame, We Coach, the Florida Coaches Coalition, and the global community of women in high school sports. You've heard me say many times, these are four great organizations. You really need to add them to your network. Now, don't hit that fast forward button. I'm watching you. Stay with us for the next 3 minutes. We're going to give our sponsors a shout out. These are all companies that I used as an athletic director or as a coach. You should be using them too. Here we go. We want to say thanks to Gipper for their support of the podcast. Gipper is the official social media graphic solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to show you how to start creating world-class content for your social media channel. And at Gipper.com, you can also see testimonials from hundreds of athletic directors and coaches who use Gipper to promote their teams, celebrate their athletes. When you go to Gipper, mention the podcast, you'll get a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. Start creating world-class content for your school's social media channel. We also want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more support, more security, more customization. Their team is ready to help you make the right decision for online ticketing. That's hometownticketing.com. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com, schedule a live web demo, and see their scoreboards and their score tables in action. Their products not only generate income for your athletic department, they also create the ultimate game day experience for your student athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Check out their programs today. We want to say thanks to our friends at Home Campus, the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, tracking your coaches, and a whole lot more. Go to homecampus.com. You are really going to love it. That's homecampus.com. We want to thank our friends at Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. That's the website, snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. If you're looking for a fundraising platform, you found it. SnapRaise is the best, but there's Snap Connect, Snap Manage, Snap Store, and a whole lot more. You can find them all at snapraise.com. Check them out today. We'd like to thank our friends at Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle, and as an AD, we were a Huddle school. And our coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that let them coach our kids at their highest level. Go to huddle.com, see why we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. And finally, we'd like to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and an affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire program. Athletic directors already hear back from the complainers, the 2% that want to gripe about everything. Athletic surveys will connect you with the 2%, but they'll also connect you with the 98% that support your program. That's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or even your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to create a custom survey that will let you take the pulse of your parents and your student athletes. That's athleticsurveys.com. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're staying right here in Florida. We're staying right here in Tavares, where I live. And we're going to be talking with Alisha Wintersdorf. Alisha and I met a couple years ago. She is the head volleyball coach for Tavares High School, also very active in the USVBA Florida region with club volleyball. I think you're really going to enjoy her, but let's go ahead and welcome her to the podcast. Alisha, welcome to the Educational AD Podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, again, we know it's the middle of volleyball season for our listeners. We're recording this on September 20th. And Alisha had a game last night, a big win. She's got another game tomorrow, so we appreciate her spending some time with us. Alisha, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that quick bio, where you were born, where you grew up, maybe take us up through your own high school and college days, and then we'll take a break, hear more about your coaching career. But what's the Alisha Wintersdorf origin story?
Sure. So I was born in Brandon, Florida, but shortly moved to Fort Lauderdale, where I became a figure skater. Um, so I actually grew up as a figure skater. Um, I was always around volleyball because my dad was big in the volleyball world, played a lot of beach. So we were kind of dragged to his games all the time. We moved to Leesburg when I was about 10. And that's kind of when we became involved in volleyball as well. Um, good friend Steve Bishop had just started a club at that time, Lake County Juniors, and my sister and I both got involved at that time. Eventually, I decided to choose volleyball over figure skating. Figured it would probably get me a scholarship quicker than skating would. I went to Leesburg High School, where I played all 4 years. Graduated from Leesburg and went on to play at Lake Sumter Community College, which is now Lake Sumter State College. And after that, I transferred to Stetson University, where I finished my indoor career. And they also introduced beach volleyball at that time. So I became a dual sport athlete and I played both indoor and beach volleyball. And that's where I finished my career, was at Stetson.
Yeah, I want to go back to those high school days in Leesburg. Leesburg, for those of you not in Florida, it's a good sized community. Classification now, what would that be? Maybe a 4A, 5A school?
They're 5A. We're actually in the same district as Tavares.
Okay. Yeah. But back then, and again, I'm much older than you are, but back when you were in high school, you were playing both high school and club. How was that? Because you hear sometimes about a conflict between high school coaches and club coaches. And I know you're right in the middle of it now as a coach, but how was it for you as a high school athlete?
Sure. Volleyball has really changed even since I've been in high school and I graduated in 2008. Back at that time, seasons were much shorter and you kind of were able to do a lot more. I played multiple sports in high school and there was never any conflict. Most coaches encouraged it. And in fact, when I was in college, there were several girls on my college team that played volleyball, but they also played basketball, so they were playing year round at a D1 level. And I thought that was really important. It's recently, in the last several years, I guess the last decade or so, has changed to where it's become a lot longer seasons, both high school and travel season and beach season. So yes, it has become a lot more difficult to be involved in any other sports.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that, in a later segment.
Mm-hmm.
How was the transition for you from the junior college level, at Lake Sumter when it was a community college, to the D1 level? Both programs in state. DeLand's not too far from where you grew up, but
Right.
how was that the change from community college to D1?
It's a pretty big change, I'm glad that I went to community college first. It kind of got my feet wet and ready to go because I think coming into a D1 school as a freshman, it's a really big reality shock. And I think that a lot of people can get overwhelmed by that. So I'm really glad I had the opportunity to kind of, get involved with it first. But D1 level, there's definitely a lot more time, a lot more commitment, and a lot more expectations of you at that level.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
From a beach perspective, now, you mentioned that was just coming in when you were at DeLand. I believe you said that.
Yes.
Here in Florida, beach volleyball has been, I think, an official sport with the FHSA for maybe 2 years. I know there was kind of an entry level. In fact, my old school, the McClay School, we were part of that group that first started playing beach volleyball. For you as an athlete, had you ever played beach before? I mean, maybe besides just playing around, have you ever played competitive beach before it was first introduced?
Yeah, I actually played beach before I played indoor because my dad was a big beach volleyball player. So that's always where we were, and that's where we learned how to play. Um, it was very interesting because growing up and when I was in high school, there were very, very few beach players. My sister and I were considered two of the probably top 10 in the state, just because there weren't many. And, at every level, we were competing against the same girls over and over again who were just competing at the same level as each other. So it was very interesting when it got introduced into college to see how big it's gotten since then.
Now, I'm jumping ahead of myself, but this will be the last question for this segment.
No problem.
Yeah, I know you're the head volleyball coach at Tavares High School. You also, coach in the club system. Does Tavares have a beach team in the spring? And if so, do you coach that?
Tavares does not have a beach team yet. We are currently working on it. There's obviously a lot of rules and things with Title IX and trying to keep sports and numbers equal. So we're trying to get all that worked out. But that is the future goal, yes, is to get a beach team.
All right. Well, that's good to hear. I'm not trying to put more on your plate, but I'm sure you want to see that get started.
Yes, absolutely.
For our listeners, our guest today is Alisha Wintersdorf. She is the head volleyball coach, let's say the director of volleyball at Tavares High School here in Florida. Also very active with USVBA Florida region. I think I said that right. Let's take our first break, but we're coming back with some more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank our good friends at Gipper for their support of the podcast. Gipper is the official social media graphic solution for us. And if you go to Gipper.com, their team is going to help you to start creating world-class marketing content for your school's social media channel. Your kids are on social media, and if you're not celebrating their accomplishments, promoting the teams, you're really missing out on a great opportunity. Go to Gipper.com, and you're going to see hundreds of testimonials from athletic directors and coaches who use Gipper to promote their programs. It's so easy, even I can do it. Go to Gipper.com, mention this podcast, and they'll give you a nice discount. That's Gipper.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Once again, our guest is Alisha Wintersdorf. She's the head volleyball coach at Tavares High School here in Florida. Alisha, you kind of took us up through your college years, playing at DeLand University. What were some of those early career stops for you? I know you were, a teacher and you got into coaching, but share with our listeners that part of your journey.
Sure. I always knew that I wanted to coach. I was always a very vocal leader on all of my teams growing up. Everyone encouraged me to do some coaching. I really like to know the ins and outs of the game, and I like to share that. So when I was at Lake Sumter, I actually continued coaching for the club that I grew up playing with, which was Lake County. So while I was at Lake Sumter, I coached a 12 and under team there, and that's kind of where I started my coaching career. And then when I moved over to Stetson, I moved over to a club called Power. So during my off seasons, I would also help coach over at Power, and I got a little bit more experience there. When I graduated college, I wasn't really sure what it was that I wanted to do at that time. So I moved back home, and I did know I wanted to keep coaching. And at that time, a job opportunity at Mount Dora High School became available. And I interviewed and got accepted into that position. So that was kind of the start of my high school coaching career. I coached there for several years. And then during that time, I was kind of in and out of the classrooms and learning about the teaching world. And I decided that that was something that I wanted to pursue. So at that time, I went back and got a master's degree in education. And I got a job over at Leesburg High School. And that's where I started my teaching career. And so at that time, I did switch over from Mount Dora to Leesburg, and was the head coach over there for several years. And during that time, I had coached for a couple of different clubs, but I was kind of looking for a home. And towards the end of my coaching career at Leesburg, I found our club, which is American Athletic Club, which is run by a good family friend. And it was just a really good fit for me. It fit all of my values and, coaching expectations. And I think it fit really well for me. So I was there for several years, and most of their girls came from Tavares at that time. So that was kind of my bridge over into Tavares. where a good friend was the head coach, I became her assistant and the JV coach. And then when she decided to step down is when I took over at Tavares High School.
For our listeners, you hear Mount Dora High School, Leesburg High School, Tavares High School. These are all separate communities, but they're, maybe, 10, 12-minute drive from one to the other. So they're all very close. Want to ask you about your Leesburg experience. Now, that's where you went to high school. And you've been, out of high school for a while, but what was that experience coming back? I mean, I guess that you might have some old former teachers and some former coaches there. How was that coming back home?
Sure. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed giving back to the program that gave a lot to me. Our program was very, very successful when we played there, when both my sister and I went through, and it had, gone through its ups and downs since then. So I was really happy to put back. The principal at the time is the one that hired me. He was also my principal in high school. So he was the one that actually got me over there for the teaching job and then gave me the coaching job as well. But I really enjoyed giving back to the program.
Let's go and talk now about that transition to Tavares. You mentioned fit, and from an athletic director perspective, that's just so important to find a coach that's going to fit within the department, the school. We can talk about culture and all that. What
Right.
made Tavares a good fit for you?
So, getting involved in American Athletic Club, I got to experience coaching a couple of different teams, and I found that the girls that were coming from the Tavares area were girls that were extremely coachable, that wanted to put in the work, that didn't necessarily have all of the experience, but that were going to just kind of, put in the work. And I started to meet other people and other coaches from the Tavares area, and they just had a lot of the same coaching concepts as me, a lot of the same goals that I did as a coach. And so coming in, that's really the reason that I wanted to come over here, was mostly for the girls, but also to, give them what they needed.
Okay. Well, you've been the head coach now at Tavares for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
What are some things that under your watch, I know I'm putting you on the spot here, but what are some things that you're particularly proud of that the program's accomplished or that have occurred under your direction?
Oh, there's a lot that I'm really proud of this team. Honestly, just the trust and the relationships that we've been able to build over the years with the players and with the parents. I know that all coaches can experience some bad times, bad experiences with parents. I know ADs can also experience that. And I'm very, very proud to say that we just have not had any, parent concerns, parent issues, player issues. We've built a really strong trust and bond within the program, and everybody that comes into that program knows the expectations and, what they're going to put into it. And I think that, building that has been one of the greatest accomplishments.
All right. You open the door for me, so I'm going to jump in. And those are great. Every coach, every athletic director would love to have that type of situation. What are some things that, looking back, because you've been there for a few years now, what are some things that you have done? And when I say your program, your coaches, everyone, what are some things that you have done intentionally to create that sort of environment? Because it doesn't happen by accident. Parents are great. We all love our parents, right? You can see me nodding my head, but they're going to go in a direction unless there's leadership from a coach, from an AD. What are some things that you did to create that environment that you're so proud of?
Sure. One thing is transparency for sure, and it's just being very open, very, very communicative. My door is always open to discuss anything with the parents that they wish. A big thing for me is the why. I always like to give the parents the why. I like to give my players the why. I'm all for asking me why, and I'm happy to, because I like to explain that. And I think that if everybody understands the why, then everybody's on the same page. So that's definitely one of the things that we have tried to work with, is the transparency. Another thing that I've learned is to try to kind of keep the community small. I think sometimes the coaches want to put big teams together and, have all these players. but they can't give them the attention and, the coaching that they truly need. And I think it's more important to keep a small knit community. And I think you're able to give more to them and not spread yourself so thin. And I think that's another thing that has helped us in the long run.
Yeah, I've only heard a very few coaches in my career express that idea, and I think it's 100% spot on. You use the phrase "spreading yourself too thin." Um, here's this kid, and whether it's volleyball or football or whatever sport it is, here's this kid, they're a senior, they're not going to start, and you keep them around, and sometimes that just doesn't work out for that person. They're frustrated with not playing, their parents are frustrated, and it could have been prevented, like you said, just being transparent at the very beginning. So glad to hear you say that. Okay. Being a better coach, less is more. I love that. We're going to take another break, but we're going to come back. Again, our guest today is Alisha Wintersdorf, the head volleyball coach at Tavares High School here in Florida. Please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thanks to Hometown Ticketing for their support of the podcast. Go to hometownticketing.com. It's digital ticketing that offers more, and Hometown is the leading digital ticketing provider to high schools and colleges across the country. Go to hometownticketing.com. Their team is going to show you how to set up and sell your tickets online, not just for athletic events, but for things like school plays, concerts, school dances, even graduation. And here's the best part. Hometown is going to provide your school with a dedicated client success manager. It's going to give you hands-on support every step of the way. That's every step of the way. Go to hometownticketing.com for more information. We also want to say thanks to Sideline Interactive, indoor score tables and video boards. Go to sidelineinteractive.com and set up a live web demo to see their score tables and their score boards in action. Probably one of the best purchases I ever made as an athletic director was our Sideline Interactive indoor score table. Of course, we used it for home games, but we also used it for pep rallies, for signing ceremonies. It's tremendously versatile, and the customer service is just outstanding. Go to sidelineinteractive.com. Set up that live web demo today. That's sidelineinteractive.com. We also want to thank our good friends at Home Campus. Home Campus is the exclusive high school and state association management platform for us. It's also your one-stop platform for things like scheduling, student athlete eligibility and clearance, and a whole lot more. As an athletic director, I used Home Campus every single day, and it was just great, and you're going to love it too. To get signed up, all you have to do is go to homecampus.com. That's homecampus.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Educational AD Podcast. Alisha, in addition to being the head coach at Tavares and directing that program, you're also very active in the local U.S. volleyball club program. Talk a little bit about that. How does the club develop? Is your club the club that you work with? Is it just elite players? Is it beginning players? How does that club experience unfold for you?
Sure. So there has been a lot of clubs to come up, in the area and surrounding areas. But what I've found is that a lot of clubs try to do for the money. And I was looking for a club that did it for the kids and for the right reasons. And so when I started with American Athletic Club, we actually only had one team. Well, no, I take that back. My very first year, we had two teams, and then we scaled it back to one my second year. And for several years, we just played with that one team, and we worked on developing them and their skills. And we lost a couple along the way, gained a couple along the way. And once we felt that we were ready and that our club was ready, that we felt like we were going to expand, what we didn't want to do is expand too much too quickly. We didn't want to just take anybody's money that was willing to pay it to be on a team. We want to make sure that we had the right fit. Like I mentioned earlier with my high school program, it's the same thing with our club. We have certain expectations and goals. And we like for, everyone to have those same that are part of us, and be there for the right reasons. And so once we felt we were ready for that point, we expanded to 2 teams, and we just went very slowly to a second team. And then this year we have grown to 5 teams. So, we continue to see the exact same growth and the exact same things from each of these teams. And we think that, we've really found a way to develop the right way. We're definitely not a club that's about the money. We offer all kinds of scholarships. We find ways to make sure that the teams are, able to, if there's a girl that's able to compete, we want to make sure that they're able to compete, because that's kind of another thing we found with other clubs, is that a lot of these girls, and especially in this area, get priced out. A lot of these clubs are just too expensive, and the travel is too expensive. And we're really lucky to have really great owners that are here to help these girls and have helped them along the way.
You and I were talking about this, and I'm curious for your take. From my perspective, and our oldest daughter played volleyball in high school, but from the club perspective, it seems like volleyball is the only sport. So I'll wait for somebody to correct me. It seems like volleyball is the only sport where the players are actually, part of their club experience is actually coaching within the club, coaching the younger levels. You mentioned that you did that. Why do you think that is? And, how do you feel that helped you as a coach to get started at a younger age?
I think it's huge. And I truly think that it's because volleyball, when they say volleyball is a family sport, it really is a family sport. The people that you're surrounded by, become your family. And so that first group of girls that we had, we had them when they were in 7th grade going into 8th. And we continued to coach them until they just graduated this past year. This past year was actually the first year our club had an 18s team, because that was the first year we had old enough girls for that. We had 4 seniors on our team, and all 4 seniors went on to play at the collegiate level. But during their time at the 18s, we had a younger team, and they would kind of step in and really, and I could see their love for the game, and I could see their knowledge for the game being shown there. And now we're really lucky that 3 of the 4 are still in the area and will be actually coming back to help us coach our teams this coming year. And so we've got a head coach for each team, and then each of them has been given an assistant job, because we think it's really important for them to get their foot in and to start as early as possible. And we think it's really good for the upcoming players as well. They've gained a lot of respect for them already.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. You can see it play out. I wish other teams would somehow figure out a way to adopt that model. I'm also going to ambush you with this next question. You've talked a couple of times about your dad, how he was a competitive player when you were really young, and that was kind of your gateway into volleyball. I know he's also worked with you as an assistant coach. Can you go into that experience just a little bit? What your dad's brought to the program?
Sure. My dad's brought a lot to the program. My dad has coached, at all kinds of levels. He's coached from developmental all the way to the college level. He's had a lot of experience, and he's tried to retire on me a lot of times, but his experience is just really invaluable. So he has done a lot of coaching with me at the high school level, and now he's actually our coaching mentor at our club. And what he does is he works with the coaches rather than the players, and helping develop their skills. And I think that that's another thing that's so important for our younger coaches that are coming in, that they're going to have an invaluable opportunity to learn from him, and me as well. And the other experienced coaches, just because he's got a different insight, and we're really excited to look at, working with him this year on that.
Now, and I love that idea, a coaching mentor on the staff. He's not coaching in the games, he's not coaching the kids, but he's coaching the coaches. Great idea. Alisha, we're going to do this at the end of the podcast, but if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit more about coaching, about club, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Sure. The best way is going to be through email. That'll be the fastest to get hold of me. And my email is very easy, because it's just Alisha@AmericanAthleticClub.net, which is our club name.
All right. Alisha@AmericanAthleticClub.net. All right.
Yes.
Good job. We're going to take another break, but we're going to be back with more. So please stay with us. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to say thank you to Vital Signs Wall of Fame. They're one of our partners. They're one of our sponsors. And if you go to their website, vitalsignswalloffame.com, you can see a ton of examples of their interactive touchscreen video consoles. They're great ways to display your school record boards for all your teams, for all the events. It's touchscreen. You'll scroll through all the different events. It's also a great way to acknowledge your school's Hall of Fame or simply tell more compelling stories about your school's diverse history and your proudest moments. Go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Mention this podcast and you'll get a nice discount. That's vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to say thanks to Snap Mobile. Go to snapraise.com. Check out their entire suite of platforms designed to help you do your job better. If you're looking for a fundraising platform, stop right here. Snap Raise is hands down the best one out there. We used it at my school with great success. You're going to love it too. But there's a lot more. You've got Snap Connect, Snap Manage, Snap Store. You can find it all at snapraise.com. And we want to say thanks to Huddle. Go to huddle.com and change the way you see the game. As a football coach, I used Huddle for years, but when I became an athletic director, I made sure that our school was a Huddle school. And the coaches just loved the tools that Huddle provided that helped them coach our kids up to their highest level. At Huddle, we believe in sports and teams believe in Huddle. Join the 8 million users and turn your school into a Huddle school. That's huddle.com.
Hey, Jake, I heard that last commercial there on Huddle, and I've got to say that Huddle is the best thing that has ever happened to me as a coach. Not only do I not have to take stats anymore, the program takes them for me, but I mentioned earlier that the why is really important, and Huddle is a great way to break down video, to analyze game, and really show the girls the why.
Wow. I'm going to be sending that one to Huddle. Great. And I'm so glad when coaches say that. Non-football coaches say it, because I knew how great Huddle was as a football coach, but as an AD, I was really concerned if our other coaches would like it. And you're right. They just loved it. So appreciate that shout out. Let's go and talk about best practices. We kind of pride ourselves on, that's one of the things we do at the podcast. So one more time, I'm going to put you on the spot. What are some things that you do as a leader in your programs, or maybe you've seen, your athletic director, your club director do? What are some things that you would consider best practices that you can share with our listeners?
Sure. One of the things that I think would be a best practice would just be focusing on individual strengths of players and of people in general. I think a lot of times coaches or leaders try to make their people fit a system. And I think it's really important to actually build around your people and to find the strengths that they have and the individual strengths that they have and build around that. And that's what I found to be the most successful. Is every year I develop a new strategy, a new system, because I build it around what I have. And I think that that's really important. As I also mentioned earlier, the building trust and just having a lot of trust within your parents, within your kids, because if they trust you, they're going to be a lot more capable. You're going to be a lot more capable. Well, everyone's going to be more successful.
Again, the people that make up the program, we talk about the importance of relationships. What are some things that, again, you've done as a coach, as a leader, to help develop relationships within your program?
It's not all about volleyball. I like the girls to know that they can come to me for anything. If, they're having trouble in school, if they're having trouble personally, that, that their mental health, their well-being always comes before volleyball. And I think that them knowing that and then trusting that we really have their best intentions in mind, and that our goal is not just to win or to be the best players that we can be, it's to be the best people that we can be. And I think really instilling that in them has, been very successful.
Boy, it makes me want to come out and maybe watch one of your games again. I love seeing you on the bench. You're not on the bench; you're up coaching your kids. But the things you shared today, I see played out as a coach. So well done. For our listeners, our guest has been Alisha Wintersdorf. She's the head volleyball coach at Tavares High School here in Florida. But we're not done yet. We always wrap up with what we call the athletic director, or we could say the coach's toolbox. Now, Alicia's not an athletic director, but she certainly knows her way around the world of sports. We're going to take our final break, hear from Athletic Surveys, who sponsor this segment. And when we come back, I'm going to challenge Alisha to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in the toolbox. So please stay with us. We're going to find out what Alisha Wintersdorf is going to put in her new athletic director toolbox. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment. Athletic surveys are a quick, easy, and an affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that's going to allow you to evaluate and improve every aspect of your department. Athletic directors already hear back from the complainers, the 2% that want to gripe about everything. Athletic surveys will connect you with the 2%, but they'll also connect you with the 98% that supports your program. And that's a tremendously valuable tool to have when you're talking with a frustrated parent or your principal or your school board. Go to athleticsurveys.com. They're going to show you how they can create a custom survey that'll let you take the pulse of your players and your parents. That's athleticsurveys.com. Let them help you take your athletic program from good to great. Well, it's that time of the podcast. We've been visiting today with Alisha Wintersdorf, the head volleyball coach here in Tavares, Florida. She's no stranger to the world of athletics, but right now I'm going to challenge her to send out a brand new athletic director. She's worked with a number of athletic directors in her career. Send out a brand new one on the very first job, but I'm only going to let her put 3 things in their toolbox. So, Alisha, what 3 items are going to go into your new athletic director toolbox?
Sure. So my first thing that I would put into the toolbox, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, is just open communication. Athletic directors have a lot of jobs, a lot of responsibilities, from fundraising, logistics, facility management. I mean, they do it all. And I think it's really important that they just, are open and communicate with everybody involved. And I think that helps them be successful. The second tool that I would put into my toolbox would probably be a servant mindset, empathy. Coaches go through a lot, and none of them do it for the money. We all know that. And I think that sometimes you can have a one way or my way type of thing. And I think it's really important that we're truly listening to not only our coaches, but our students and our parents, and really, really listening, truly listening. And I think that taking that feedback and being able to use that, will make you more successful as well. And I think that my third thing I would put in the toolbox would be don't take it personal. Sports bring out a really, really wide range of emotions. People can say things in the moment, and I think it's really important that coaches and athletic directors just don't take it personal.
Wow, you probably saw me scribbling all those down. I love the communication part because you're absolutely right. It is so very important, whether it's kids or parents or coaches. You've got to be a good communicator. That's a whole episode in itself. And your last one, don't take it personal. Half the people on a good day, half the people will hate you, and the other half, they don't care. But it's never going to be a popularity contest as a coach or as an AD. If your kids are playing hard, if your assistants are on board with you, if they're not going rogue, if you've got an athletic director that supports you and tells you, hey, you're doing a great job, that's all that matters. Okay. Everything else beyond that's just gravy. Alisha, thanks so much for spending time with us today. Again, I know it's in the middle of the season. One more time, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out, pick your brain a little bit, what's the best way that they can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. The best way to reach me would be Alisha, which is ALISHA at AmericanAthleticClub.net.
All right. Alisha Wintersdorf, thanks so much for spending time with us. All the best with the rest of the season.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me.
For our listeners, of course, we appreciate you listening, and we upload the Zoom recordings of these interviews to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. Thanks again for tuning in. Come back next time for another great interview, and just about every day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast.